The clock in the mansion kept ticking louder than usual. It was like every sound had turned into fear. David Brown stood in the middle of his large home in Newport Beach, California, USA. But for the first time in his life, the house did not feel rich. It felt empty and cold. His only son, Liam Brown, just 8 years old, was lying upstairs on a hospital bed placed inside the house. His breathing was weak, and every beep from the heart monitor felt like a warning of goodbye. Only 1 hour, that was what the doctor had said. Only 1 hour left. David had built his life on money, power, and control. He believed nothing was impossible for him. But now he was learning something painful. There are moments money cannot touch. He walked back and forth in the hallway, his hands shaking, his eyes full of tears he was trying to hold back, but they kept falling anyway. Downstairs, the staff stood silent. No one was speaking loudly. Even their footsteps felt heavy. Among them was a young maid named Sarah. She had worked in the house for 2 years. She was quiet, simple, and always kind to the boy. Liam loved her deeply. She was the one person who could make him smile even on sad days, but today there was no smile. Only silence. Upstairs, the doctor checked the machines again. He looked at David and slowly shook his head. There is nothing more we can do. His body is shutting down. You may want to spend the remaining time with him. Those words hit David like a hard stone. He felt his legs weaken, and for a moment he could not stand. He slowly walked into his son's room and held Liam's small hand. Liam looked at him softly, his voice very weak. Papa, am I going to sleep now? David tried to smile but failed. He nodded slowly and said, You are just going to rest, my boy. I am right here with you. Liam gave a small smile. I am not scared. I will go where Mama is. She told me stars are warm. David closed his eyes as pain filled his heart. Memories of his late wife came back, the laughter, the bedtime stories, the promise she made to their son before she passed away. The room felt even quieter now. Sarah stood outside the door, holding her hands together tightly. Her eyes were full of tears. She could not walk away. She had known Liam since he was small. She had carried him, played with him, and comforted him when he cried. She felt something deep in her heart breaking. She turned away and walked quickly downstairs, her heart beating fast. She could not accept what was happening. She kept whispering to herself, there has to be something. There has to be a way. She entered the small kitchen area and opened a drawer where she kept a small box hidden. Inside it was something her grandmother once gave her, a small vial of herbal medicine, old and simple, said to help when the body is too weak to fight. Her hands shook as she held it. She did not know if it would work, but she knew doing nothing felt worse. Upstairs, the monitor beep grew slower. The hour was almost gone. The room upstairs felt tighter with every passing second. The heart monitor gave a slow, steady sound that carried more fear than hope. David Brown stood beside his son Liam's bed, holding his tiny hand like he was afraid to let go even for a second. The doctors had already stepped away, leaving behind silence and broken certainty. Sarah stood at the door, her heart beating fast, her hands still trembling as she held the small vial. She knew what she was about to do could either be called foolish or a last act of love, but watching the child fade made her fear disappear. She stepped forward slowly, her voice shaking but firm. Sir, please, I cannot just stand here. I have something. I don't know if it will work, but I cannot let him go like this. David turned sharply, his eyes red with pain and anger. What are you saying? The best doctors in this city have tried everything, and you think you can do something now? At this moment, Sarah lowered her head. I understand, sir, but I have to try, even if it is only a small chance. I would rather take that chance than live with regret. For a moment, the room went silent again. Only the sound of the machine filled the air. Liam's breathing had become weaker, like it was slipping away piece by piece. David closed his eyes, his entire life breaking inside him. Then slowly, something in him gave way. Maybe it was hopelessness, maybe it was love, or maybe it was the fact that he had nothing left to lose. He nodded once, barely able to speak. Do it. Sarah moved quickly to the bedside. She held Liam's small hand gently and whispered words no one else could hear. Her eyes closed as if she was praying with everything inside her. Then she opened the vial and carefully gave him the drops. At first, nothing changed. The monitor stayed the same, the room stayed frozen, and David felt his heart sink deeper than before. He turned his face away, unable to watch. A long second passed, then another, and then a soft sound broke the silence. A faint beep, followed by another. The machine showed a weak pulse returning. Liam's fingers moved slightly. His chest rose just a little stronger than before. David rushed forward, his voice shaking. Doctor, someone please come quickly. The medical team ran back into the room. Confusion filled their faces as they looked at the monitor. The doctor froze in disbelief. This is not possible, he said quietly. His heart is responding. It is actually stabilizing. Sarah stepped back, tears falling from her eyes. She whispered, Thank God. David fell to his knees beside his son, holding his hand tightly, crying without shame. As relief crashed over him like a wave he had been holding back his entire life, Liam slowly opened his eyes, weak but alive, and looked at his father. Papa David smiled through tears. "I am here, my boy. I am here." The room that was once filled with despair slowly changed. The fear that had ruled it began to disappear, replaced by relief, disbelief, and quiet gratitude. Later that night, David sat in silence, watching Sarah from across the room. The same woman he had once ignored like just another worker now stood in a different light. Someone who had stepped into a moment when no one else dared. He called her name softly. "Sarah." She turned. Unsure of what would come next, David stood slowly, his voice full of emotion he could not hide. "You did what no one else could do. You gave me my son back." Sarah shook her head gently. "Sir, I only did what my heart told me to do." David looked at her for a long moment, then spoke with a changed heart. "From today, you are not just staff in this house. You are part of this family." And as the clock ticked down on that final hour, the millionaire realized something he had never understood before. That the difference between losing everything and saving everything was no longer money, power, or status, but the courage of the one person in that room he had never truly looked at as his son's last chance at life.